Hey everyone, what's up? This is Uri for Guerrilla Poker. For those of you who don't know, there is the online world championship of poker going on Coin Poker. They're having live streams. They have high stakes players jumping in to cover some of the action live and do hand analysis. So if you haven't checked that out, definitely do. I'm also there, some of the streams, doing some hand analysis. Think it's an amazing project. I really hope it does well, and I think as poker players, we all should support it. Now, let's look at this hand. This is 100, 200. So Chris raises to 440, 2.2x standard size. Kevin calls on the big blind. And I think this is probably not one of the world championship hands, but it is actually at the show table. So the winner has to show his hand, regardless of whether it went to showdown or not. King 4-5 rainbow board. Now, big blind versus UTG, you want to judge always who's the board good for. There are a few parameters. So when we say rainbow is generally good for the pre-flop raiser because, the better the board is for aces and ace-king, the better it is for the pre-flop raiser. And, two-tone, connected, monotone, these are bad. Rainbow's good. So that's good. The 4 and the 5, which are connected and lower, are generally better for the caller, especially in this position pair. The pre-flop raiser might not always have 4s and 5s. He doesn't have 4-5. He doesn't have king 5, king 4 necessarily. So there's something about this board with a 4 and a 5 that favors the caller, and of course the king is good for the raiser. So we have kind of an in-between board. I have a feeling it's not a board where you range bet generally, but I could be a bit off. But yeah, just the king 4-5. So Kevin checks. Chris bets roughly quarter pot. So he is saying that he is roughly range betting this board. He thinks the fact that it's rainbow is good enough. Kevin makes a largest raise, 6x, and Chris calls. And at this point, we're going to give Kevin a raising range. And I have a course about how to check raise. If you guys want to go more in depth, check that out. It's on upswing.com. It's called Redline Rocket Chip. But generally speaking, the raiser has his value range that's centered around 2 pair plus and maybe some good top pairs. And in these positions, you could even have ace-king as the caller. And then a variety of draws, backdoor draws, low pairs, which you can treat as sort of draws, right? A pair is drawn to 2 pair of trips. So all of those types of hands. Turn, we get the 9 of clubs. Now the 9 of clubs doesn't complete any draws for Kevin. It does bring in backdoor clubs. So if he check raised with a backdoor club draw, so say something like 7-8 of clubs, so a gut shot plus backdoor clubs, he now has a big draw. If he had something like queen jack of clubs, he turned the club draw and the straight draw. So it is a card that adds some equity to his range, and Kevin goes for a 1.5 pot-sized bet. So he's basically going geometric sizing. He's saying, the 9 is not improving Chris enough. I can still go for stacks with my 2 pairs and my sets, etc. So I'm just piling in and bluffing appropriately. Chris calls, and at this point in the hand, Chris is going to have to, whereas on the flop you call fairly wide, on the turn, you can even start folding some top pairs. And the qualities that you're looking for in your hands, just in theory, guys, but say you could have King 6 versus King 3, right? King 3 can't improve versus King 4, King 5, whereas King 6 can. But King 6, when it improves, the other guy makes straight. So you want a high kicker king, like a King 10, King Jack, King Queen, Ace, King. But not necessarily for the reason that you think it's more the outs against 2 pairs and not interfering with a straight. And you can still actually call pocket pairs because they draw to set. So there's some weird stuff going on there. But yeah, river, we get the 5 of clubs. So backdoor clubs got there. At this point, Kevin fires all in for, again, roughly 1.5x pot. And Chris makes a call. We see a showdown. Kevin showing up with King 5 of spades. So kind of perfectly coherent hand. He had a hand that's in his value range. He played the correct pot size for it. And, everything makes a lot of sense from Kevin's perspective. And when we look at Chris's hand, we see King 10 offsuit with a King of clubs. On a surface level, this makes sense, right? Because we're saying Chris has, a king with a 10 kicker, so a kicker that's outdrawing all the 2 pairs, so it makes sense to maybe call on the turn. And then on the river, he has a bluff catcher plus a club. So presumably that pushes it over the top. But I am curious because these positions are quite tight. I would guess this kind of hand mixes and actually mostly folds. And I want to check my intuition. So I'm going to load up a solver because you're going to have like king 10, king jack, king queen with a club. You're going to have, I guess, hands like queens with a club or aces with a club would be strictly worse. But you're also just going to have lots of flushes and, pocket nines. And I have a feeling your range is tight enough where this is actually mostly a fold. So yeah, let's quickly take a look in the solver streets. All right, so we'll make this a six-handed sim, even though the one played was seven-handed, if I recall correctly. UTG raising, big blind calling, and look at the calling range, and this is the point where, because this is a game with no rake, look at like 4-5 offsuit is in there. This is why I think the king 4-5 in this position pair is going to be problematic for range betting, but yeah, let's see. King of diamonds, 4 of clubs, 5 of hearts. Okay, we have out of position check. We see that the small bet by Chris was correct, but like I was saying, you can't bet everything. But yeah, fair enough, and certainly bet king 10 a decent amount, though not always. And then we see the big raise with king 5. So far, everything kind of standard. And the interesting thing is, guys, and this is crazy, look at these positions. Look at the way the computer's playing. Is it saying, you know what? My range is so tight. And the way that this board plays, right, where I want outs against your sets and stuff, I'm going to fold king 10 straight up to your big raise. Like king 10 never calls. That's amazing. The raises, it is sometimes made by king 10. So there's something a bit crazy going on there with a 10. But yeah, king 10 folds, king jack is mixed folding. And we rather call ace 5, ace 4, 6-5. So the ranges get so narrow that you get this weird spot where would you rather call king queen or ace 5? And the answer is it's clearly ace 5. It's not even close. Ace 5 has a backdoor, but it has a blocker. Like when you have ace 5, the guy's over bluffing. When you have king 5, king queen, not so much, right? Because his range, sure, it has king 5. There are some elements with a king, but it has 5s and 4s and 4-5. Like this is the center of the range. So very, very cool to see. Club's turn. Here the solver isn't going geometric. It's going smaller, but we're gonna force the geometry just so that we're nearer to the hand as played. And here you can see how out of position on the turn you can still bet king 5. Again, your range is centered around here. There's more playing defense as well because you want to let your checking range realize its equity. And again, you can see that out of position here he doesn't have king 10, but say he had king jack with a club. It's just a fold. Like you're not calling king jack. You start folding aces. You know what you call? You call ace 5. I mean, even 5-6 folds. You just get very, very tight here on the turn, guys. And this is the deceptive thing about this spot and kind of what gave me the weird feeling. So you get 5 of clubs on the river, because if this were button versus big blind, I think Chris played it super normal. But here on the river, so we have an all-in. And again, maybe I got something wrong with the stack sizes, and I apologize if so. So on the river, we get there. Of course, king 5 is going to shove here, and nothing too special going on. And then how should in position react? And again, we don't have king 10 off in the range here, but we can have similar hands, right? And of course, he's going to call with 4s, and he's going to call with 4-5. He's going to call with ace 5. There's no 5s. I assume 5s just went for it on the turn. But yeah, if you have 5s, of course, call 5s. You call kings. And what do you do with your king X? Well, ace king of clubs is going to call, right? King queen of clubs is going to call. There's some magic with spades. King jack of clubs, so king high flush, actually mixed folding when you have king jack of clubs. And then king queen with a club is calling. So you guys can see how crazy chaotic the solver gets. And if we're going to kind of be like take this more with a grain of salt because people are not playing exactly like the solver. Of course, we don't fold the flushes, but I get the feeling from looking at this that while Chris played it perfectly fine for a button versus big blind spot with King 10, here he should have folded flop, he should have folded turn, and river is like the zero-ish EV spot where it's not terrible to call King of Clubs with some kicker, right? Like that's okay, but certainly not a printing call or not 100% frequency call. So yeah, very, very interesting to see the way these spots play. I wonder what I got wrong about the sizes. Kevin raised to 6.5 big blinds, so this raise was much bigger. That's why I didn't get the kind of the correct future sizing. So we'll quickly run through that just to make sure. I don't think too much is going to change. Now King 10 calls flop, but it's close. It's 0 EV, it's mixed folding, but you don't fold quite yet. Now there's a bigger turn size. It's still not as big as Kevin took. And now facing this turn size, King 10 still just folds the turn. So we are roughly correct there. Like King 10 should have folded the flop and then it should fold the turn. King Jack should fold the turn. We're not going to be way off in how this spot plays, even though I got the sizings a bit wrong. And then, yeah, shoving the river. King of Clubs type hand would be, I mean, here it would be losing, but it would be in the 0 EV area. And actually your flushes are more your close hands than your King plus club. So yeah, crazy stuff, guys. Crazy, crazy stuff. Other guys supposed to bluff some 4-3s, some 7-6s, some 8-4s, and basically value bet, not flushes and boats. So tough spot for you, and having a king is not too relevant. I'll wrap it up here because the hand took a bit longer than I expected. In terms of takeaways, it just illustrates the huge difference of how tight things get when positions are different. And again, we didn't look at this, but you guys can trust me, button versus big blind. It's not that crazy as this one looks like. I really hope everyone supports the online cash game world championships, kind of for the future of poker as a professional sport. I think we need to have a path where professionals can make a good living and can devote themselves to the game. We need to have a place that exists where, that's valued and they're getting rewarded for that. Yeah, that's it for this one. Like and subscribe to the channel. I'll see you guys next time.